And we're busy talking about Black Industrialists, policies, programs that have been developed by the Department of Trade and Industry, and how they've been assisted and enabled with the efforts of the National Empowerment Fund. Our panelists, the Minister, Deputy Minister, and the CEO of the NEF are helping us with this conversation. And we've already started taking questions from the floor here, and we're also monitoring your tweets to questions that are coming through. And just before the break, one big issue that came through was about funding and assisting a lot of these Black industrialists because at their level, the money and the money requirements are pretty serious. And Mr. Thabo in particular was saying that, look, you know, this is so desperate that I'm going to go to the Constitutional Court to make sure that you help me.
Okay, thank you, Peter. That is a serious one. Obviously, our political principals must think seriously about some of these statements. But if I may just, respond to some of the questions that have been raised regarding funding. The first gentleman was talking about this working capital facility that he actually managed to raise the first tranche from the IDC. So I don't know the types of instruments that were actually used to support you. I think that was Mr. Spear. But because I also sit on the IDC board, usually it doesn't matter what type of instruments you would have used to support an entrepreneur. It could be senior debt, it could be equity, but I don't see the reason why the IDC would have said they can't provide the working capital facility. So I'm happy because the chairperson of the IDC, Ms. Busi is also in the room. I'm sure she will be, Busi, can you just raise your hand so that people, when they...
Okay.
And she's the woman. So yeah, I was just saying, usually when we support you, we'll, as the IDC as well, we'll also provide any other form of financing facility that we would be looking at. But we can always talk about this maybe after the conference. The gentleman, I think his name is Keith, the one who's very, very upset with our government. I've just been informed by my colleagues that the gentleman is actually involved in the digital migration transaction. Yeah. So the only reason why the NEF has not considered it any further is because that whole process is on hold for now. So maybe you can talk to my colleagues. Can you please raise your hands, colleagues, executives? They are all here. But we can... Okay, that's the information I've received. But
okay, so it does seem, and he says he's been at it a long time, but it does seem that there's a, okay, Mr. Masina, there does seem to be a certain amount of money, and clearly you don't have a bottomless pit, and there are a lot of people, industrialists, who feel that they're getting left by the wayside and being ignored maybe. How can we make sure that everybody gets included? Okay.
No, let him go first.
No, thank you very much. I think that it will be unfair to look at specific incidences, and there is nothing wrong with the member of the group here to raise concerns. But I think we must be mindful that we are running a government program, and there might be specific shortcomings in terms of your interaction with government. And I would want to encourage you to say, come before us. But when you come before government, just understand that there is always conflicting priorities at the level of the state. I understand your position because as an entrepreneur, the reason why you are spending so much is because you've got a project at your hand to work on. And as government, we have to have instruments because we are dealing with public money, and we have to ensure that at all material times, those who come before us are the project that we can be able to stand and support. And I think that it's unfair to vent your anger. We are here to have a conversation. We now have a new scheme that we are launching today with the minister, and we hope that a number of those that will qualify will be able to access and benefit. And already we have been able to assist a number of other entrepreneurs, even outside of money, because this Black Industrialist program is not just only about dishing out state funds, but also is about strategic support, including some of the non-financial support that we have given. There are some of the entrepreneurs who have come to us to say, look, we have a 10 billion rand US investment. We want a location in one of your IDZ. We have assisted to facilitate. So I'm saying that if there's a specific problem, officials of government are here, DTI and ourselves are here, it will be unfair to really want now to almost hold this session at ransom because of one particular incident, because I'm sure all the institutions that we are referring to here, from PIC, IDC, DBSA and so on, they might not have seen this particular application. And let it come so that you can see. That is why we've created this one platform where you apply from the DTI and we're able to consult very broadly with all our stakeholders so that we can avoid some of the challenges.
Okay.
Can I just say that a number of existing incentives offered by different agencies cover different things. Some of them are for competitiveness raising, and you will get a grant incentive to do that. That enables you to invest in some machinery or equipment or some other process that raises your competitiveness. Now, I can just say that the DTI itself, as part of its contribution, has introduced a Black Industrialists Scheme, which will offer a grant for this kind of thing, covering between 30 and 50% of the investment for capital investment, feasibility studies, post-investment support, or business development. But then there are other agencies like the Industrial Development Corporation, which offer capital loans. That's basically what they do. And so I think what the program is doing is, instead of the Black Industrialists having to run around to each of the different agencies, we now combine this into a forum. Now, I think it's important for us to say that none of us sitting up here are going to be able to say today, we're going to fund you, or not fund you. We have procedures for that. And in fact, Cabinet was very insistent that the forum is not going to include politicians. It's going to include people who are responsible for funding decisions from the different agencies. But I think it is worth just mentioning some of the pledges that we've had, because a number of agencies have decided that they will contribute to this. So the Land Bank has said there will be 3 billion available, obviously for agriculture, agro-processing type industries. The Industrial Development Corporation has said 23 billion over 5 years, with 3 billion allocated for the current financial year, which ends in April. The Small Enterprise Finance Agency, 100 million. The Development Bank of Southern Africa, 2 billion. The KZN Growth Fund, 100 million, and other agencies at national and provincial level are also being consulted. So I think what's going to happen is, we've said that the forum is intended to meet in March. We have already received a number of applications, and applications are welcome. They can come in. The forum will meet, and then we can decide that the DTI incentive program can be combined with an IDC loan, or can be combined with something else, and we can get more bang for our buck. And then, as the DM said, it's not just about funding. It's about access to market opportunities. It's about not just in the public sector either, but also in the private sector. How can we twist the arm of somebody to say they should be procuring supplies from one or other of the companies? What kind of non-financial support is necessary? All of those things can be now combined in a package that we hope, as I said earlier, can deliver us more bang for our buck. Now, I'm sure there are going to be people who are going to be frustrated. I'm sure there are people who are going to feel that they are going to be left out. But I think that what we're trying to do is, within the resource constraints that we've got, get specific commitments, combine that into a package, and deliver more bang for our limited buck that we've got. And I might just say, I think our colleague from NAMAC, his concerns are about the decisions about the digital migration policy. Any citizen is entitled to go to court, but maybe there are other ways of resolving this matter through some kind of discussion as well.
As we're talking, I'm just thinking, is there a way to access the criteria so that you can see, even before your application is assessed, whether you qualify, what you need to qualify, and so that if you don't get funding, there's an explanation why, because you can say, look, points 1 to 10, I qualify. Why haven't you funded me? I need an explanation. Because it could be that there's a communication problem. I'm not sure what's happening. Because clearly you can't help everybody, but at least if everybody had an understanding of what they need as a minimum, and then they can expect an explanation if beyond that minimum they weren't able to be helped.
Let me just stay on that one. I think it's an important question. This is not the totality of support by government for black-owned businesses. This is a particular subset. This is industrialists. So the document, the Black Industrialist Policy document, together with the guidelines, they do indicate, first of all, there's a definition of industrialists. I'm not going to go through it, but you do have to provide strategic and operational leadership to your business. You must have a high level of ownership or control. You must take personal risk. You must do business in the manufacturing sector with specific reference to IPAP, Industrial Policy Action Plan, focused sectors. Then they are defined: blue economy, oil and gas, clean technology, mineral beneficiation, aerospace, industrial infrastructure, ICT, agro-processing, clothing and textiles, pulp, paper and furniture, chemicals, nuclear industries, manufacturing-related logistics, designated sectors for localization. You must be involved in those, and you must be personally involved in the business. Then you qualify under the Black Industrialists. It is spelt out, and as I said, it's quite tight because we don't want to be saying that this is a program for all businesses. There are other programs for traders or people who are involved in primary sectors, mining or whatever. This is about industrialists. And so I think that we have defined it quite tightly, but we do want to encourage industrialists or potential industrialists to come forward, and we want to see if we can identify the best and take the best a step further forward. And whether Mr. Sabia is the next Dangote or not, I don't want to say at this point in time. But we're looking to have some serious champions, national champions in the manufacturing space. That's what it's about.
All right, okay. Let's talk to Sandile Zungus on table number 6, Black Business Council, and you understand some of the issues because you've gone through that journey yourself. Perhaps you can, I don't know, share your thoughts with us about kind of how do we help the Sabias, the young people. I'm going to come to you, Sia, just now as well. Beyond government as well, I guess you as the private sector perhaps might even have a role to play.
Well, thank you. Can I be heard?
Yes.
Thank you, Peter. When we as a Black Business Council first conceptualized this idea of the creation of Black Industrialists, we were inspired by the President when he came to address us at the Black Business Summit way back in 2011. We are very pleased, hence, at the progress that has been made by both DTI and government in general to take this program to where it is now. We are very pleased indeed. Having said that, our conceptualization was that 1,000 flowers would be allowed to bloom. The target that has been set a good start, but that's not where it will end. During the advocacy for this program, there was talk of 100 Black industrialists. There's been a hoo-ha from our sector. That you cannot just create an elite of 100. You need to allow 1,000 flowers to bloom. You know, many people aspire to be industrialists. They need to be supported. They need to be encouraged. So we're looking forward to understanding the criteria, which will be revealed hopefully today. Very important is that creation of Black industrialists was never the objective of our democratic struggle, national democratic revolution. It was about the control of the national economy. At the moment, the economy is firmly in white hands, minority as they are. Even programs that are initiated by government, whether it's in the film industry, now the Black Industrialists, the ratings agency, get hijacked by our adversaries. Sometimes by design, sometimes by default. But the end result is that our people get frustrated. So we'll be watching this program with like hawks to see whether it really achieves its internet objectives. But at the end of the day, it's not about creating black industrialists who will be swamped in value chains which are controlled by whites. When Minister talks about Dangote, and therefore it inspires us to say, yes, there must be black cement gorillas in South Africa. But on their own, they will not move the needle. Who controls the value chain further down in the construction industry? We're not talking about people who manufacture tippers. Who will procure from them if the hostile procurers or the industries who are supposed to procure from them are not supportive? So our narrative as a Black Business Council right now, as the government embraces black industrialists, is shifting. It's saying we need to have blacks controlling the value chains. If you look at the value chain of food security, white people control everything from the ownership of commercial farms which are scalable and which are viable, right to the milling of flour, right to the ownership of infrastructure like silos and rail sidings, right up to the manufacture of bread, to the retail of bread. Black people are not anywhere. So if we're going to create black industrialists who must supply bread to the township, that's not enough. They'll be swamped, they are doomed to fail. So I think our view is this is a good start. We support it. We are waiting for the detail, but let's look beyond just creation of black industrialists to say black people must control the value chain and therefore the entire economy of this country. Short of that, I think the radical economic transformation is nothing but a pie in the sky. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Masina, do you want to respond to that? Because he's raising an issue that perhaps we haven't spoken enough about, is this control throughout the value chain? Because we kind of focus on this sector, this portion, but perhaps it's a bigger question. Is this something that you're working on as a department?
Well, I think that I must agree with Mr. Zungu that we're looking at the entire value chain in order to ensure that this program is successful. And as government, we are really reaching out to many entrepreneurs. And I would want to say that we have an opportunity now to really evaluate this program on the basis of the merit of the value proposition that we've put forward as government. And I am convinced that it can't be us as black people when we put our program on the table, even before it starts, we're beginning to, to complain. Let's give this an opportunity to see how far it can go. And I'm convinced that we will turn the tide and we might not be able to solve all the business problems out there, but we will be able to fundamentally alter the structure of the economy. And that's our strategic intent. And as I said, that as government, we don't have enough money to do everything for everybody. But those that will touch through this program, I think they will feel the impact. And our intent is that at least if we can be able to make a significant contribution to the triple challenges, to solving the triple challenges of unemployment, poverty, and inequality, we would have gone a step further. But also making sure that we have a number of people that we can point even at the level of the JSE through this intervention. When the minister was explaining the Black Industrialists Incentive Scheme, which we have created, which is now a grant of government, we will be giving up to about 50 million rand per qualifying enterprise that to be able to participate. So I think that let's give this a chance. Let's see how far we were able to go. And we'll welcome ideas so that as and when, like all other programs, we're able to make necessary improvements. But where we are, we're confident that the program is tight. It will benefit those that are serious in the space and were able to change the current situation.
All right. Another question that was asked was the difference between the scheme and MSEP. And if you could just explain what MSEP is for some of us.
Okay, the Manufacturing Competitiveness Enhancement Program, that's called MSEP. What it is it's a program which is basically available to manufacturers in South Africa who invest in competitiveness raising. And its genesis was that we saw when we changed the program in the clothing and textile industry, and we introduced a competitiveness incentive. In that sector, we had a number of firms taking this up fairly slowly, but they were the ones that survived and grew jobs, and we've extended that across the economy. Now, I think the Black Industrialist Scheme that the Deputy Minister spoke of just now is pretty much in the same broad design. It's an incentive grant. It's not a loan. It's not a capital loan. I think I would just want to comment also very briefly on what Mr. Zungu said. And I think the point is that the broad-based Black Economic Empowerment Program is supposed to deal with economy-wide, all sectors of the economy. Here we've tried to tighten things like the fronting regime. We have sitting at his table there, if she wants to stick her hand, is the acting commissioner, BE Commissioner, Zodwa Ntuli, who is now charged with looking at fronting, as she's now a statutory offence, and she's already started receiving a number of complaints. But what I wanted to say, and what I keep saying, I think this is a very important initiative within the realm of broad-based Black economic empowerment, but it's not going to solve all the problems of the way in which empowerment has unfolded up to now and the schemes and shenanigans that are around to frustrate empowerment. It's not going to do that. We have to look to the bigger efforts of government, together with the advice of the Presidential Advisory Council on Empowerment as well. So I think all of those things are part of the bigger picture. This is a particular focus scheme, but an important one, because I was saying right at the beginning, unless we industrialize this economy, if we are content merely to be producers and exporters of primary mineral commodities, we are in the very worst place in global value chains. We are in the place where we are going to continue to be underdeveloped as an economy, and we are not going to be able to create the conditions for prosperity in the country. That's what the African continent as a whole has recognized. So the manufacturing sector is very, very important. The problem with manufacturing is it's probably one of the least empowered sectors of the economy for various reasons. And I think that's why we have a dedicated and focused program, which is on top of the broad empowerment obligations that we will be seeking from anyone who's involved in the manufacturing space and draws any of our incentives. So if you are a white-owned company or a foreign multinational and you draw one of our incentive programs, including MSEP, you will, in the near future, if not right now, you will be expected to score a certain amount on the BEE scorecard in order to qualify. That will be part of it, but this is something which we think is supplementary to that and a very, very important part of generating people, not just, as I said as well earlier, not just at the bottom of value chains, not just in supplier development, but actually people at the top of the value chains as well.
Okay, let's go back to our tables. Table number 7, Lerato Motsamai.
Morning, Peter. Morning, Ministers. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm Lerato Motsamai. My company is Petrolink Revolution Oils, and I'm joined with my partner, Nicholas Giorgio. What we do is that we manufacture synthetic lubricants for industrial and automotive industries. So it's lubes for gas and steam turbines. It's your compressors as well as generators. Minister, it's basically directed to you. Firstly, I think that we've entered a really exciting era as industrialists and manufacturers. We've just recently been selected onto the JCCI Exporters Program, and I think that that's a great avenue if one is looking at going global. My question really is with regards to the Black Industrialists Program, and particularly in the public, procurement partnerships or programs. I find that there are quite a lot of enterprise development programs and incubators, etc. And one is really trying to use those channels to be able to get a purchase order, to get into Transnet, get into Eskom, and what happens is that it becomes quite overwhelming because you've got all these incubators who basically saying, yes, we've got the door open for you. Does the Black Industrialist Program perhaps circumvent or short circuit, having to go through all those channels? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Table number 2, Sicelo Mbonani. I love your hat, by the way.
My name is Kalombo Nane. I'm from Township Entrepreneurs Network. We're in the area of developing entrepreneurship and encouraging it across townships. So my question is, with this policy, are there plans to, one, to ensure that, there's experimental fund where we can fail and learn? Because with any invention, any manufacturing a good product, you kind of have to fail a couple of times before you get it right. So is there funds for that? Because most criteria will want us to have a product that we know for sure will work. That's one. And secondly, is there anything done in terms of the policy to ensure that the value chain is attacked too, because it's useless to develop this in isolation. You need to be able to manufacture and somebody buys that product. So are we building black retailers or with other agencies in that term? Thank you.
Okay, all right, interesting. Gregory Mofokeng is on table number 5.
Thank you, Peter. Gregory Mofokeng, the Secretary General of the Black Business Council in the built environment. So we look after the construction sector under the BBC. Minister, when we started this program, we had construction as part of the beneficiary sectors. Now we are left with something called industrial infrastructure. We are struggling to understand what exactly that means. But our view is that government is going to spend trillions in infrastructure. And therefore, this program must include construction, because government must use its procurement lever to empower us. When you look at what Mr. Zungu said, the value chain approach, if you have guys that are producing cement, and currently we have blenders of cement as our members, their product is not moving because construction companies are simply not buying from them. So we need to have a value chain approach so that our manufacturers can be able then to have access to market. So we want to understand what happened to construction. Secondly, Minister, as a sector, can we have our own targets in terms of minimum black ownership? Because we believe that 50% is diluting what is supposed to be the project that must benefit us. As a sector, we believe in 75% minimum black ownership. And if the minister wants us to call our counterparts, our white counterparts, will call them to a meeting and tell them nicely that our program in the sector will be 75%, so that we can have a minimum of 75%. And lastly, will this program be exempted from triple PFA so that our colleagues from SOEs will not have another excuse not to support us in this program? Thank you very much.
Okay, all right. So a number of issues raised. Shall I just start with you, Minister, and then we work our way across, and you can just pick up on the parts that relate to you?
Okay, first of all, there is a forum, another forum that will be consisting of state-owned companies that will be doing a similar piece of work to the funding forum, but around procurement opportunities. That's really what we want. I think I should just say that the procurement opportunities we're looking for are not procurement opportunities for people who are intermediaries, but for people who are actually manufacturers and real suppliers. That's what we're looking at in that regard. And then, as I said earlier on, we are looking at some of the obligations that will come from the BEE requirements on, according to the new scorecards, of supplier development. We're looking for that enterprise development. We're looking for some of that to feature into the opportunities. And then some of the non-financial support would be relevant, because we are actually operating a program. I think I saw Pumla and Kapai is over there, which is a trade promotion with a big focus on the African continent, because that's where the value-added trade is taking place. But where there's export readiness and identification of opportunities, and then various support programs to bring people on trade missions and the like. So I think that, as I said earlier, there's a number of initiatives dotted all over the place. What we're trying to do is combine these into a more accessible package with dedicated commitments from people that can support the black industrialists. On the township economy, well, my colleague, Minister Lindiwe Zulu is here. And there is a program being run by them on the township economy. When we were still doing this, I know that 70% of people involved in the township economy were traders, but 30% were not. They were involved in actual one or other productive activity, and I do think it's important that that activity is supported. Well, where the funds come through, I'm not exactly sure. Some of that will be through the initiatives of the township economy and the Department of Small Business Development. But I think you made an important point that anybody who wants to be a successful industrialist, or in fact to be a successful entrepreneur, must be willing to take a risk. And when you take a risk, you fail sometimes. And that doesn't mean you're inevitably doomed for the rest of your life never to be part of this. You must be able to pick up, rework again, come in, do better the next time round. We must be willing. I think that this is not a directive, because it'll be a decision that all of the agencies themselves that are part of the program will have to take up. But I think that it would be something that would be prudent for everybody to say. Let's look at the commitment of somebody exemplified by the fact that they tried. They didn't succeed last time round. They're now willing to try again, and they're doing better than they did before. And I think we must be willing to support people like that, because that is actually the journey and the progress of people who are actually involved in entrepreneurship. And then it's a hard answer I'm going to have to give you. That construction is supported through other parts of government programs. In the infrastructure program, the infrastructure build program, there will be BEE requirements which will support black construction companies. There may be millions of issues, but I don't think that we can say that the industrialist program is going to cover construction. And then the question of the triple PFA, all I can say on that is an ongoing discussion. That there is no, I can't make any any announcements about that. But really the point I want to make is that this is not the totality of government's efforts to promote empowerment. We do need to promote empowerment in all kinds of other sectors. But this is the one specifically focusing on manufacturers and industrialists. We could tweak it in millions of other directions. I mean, I've had people come to me and say to me, well, this or that service is procuring from manufacturers, therefore it's part of the manufacturing program. We have to draw a line somewhere, and I think that this is the program specifically for manufacturers.
Ms. Mthethwa, are you going to fund people who failed before, or is that a black mark? Have you ever run a business and has it failed?
Peter, let me give you a practical example of the qualification criteria that we've been using. Because at the moment, it's a new policy, so I just want to use this one example to demonstrate the point. So 2 years ago, we were approached by a group of black entrepreneurs who had identified a gap in the market. It's in the healthcare sector. So they were saying, so they are the ones who are telling us this. They were saying that there was no manufacturing capacity for disposable, auto-disposable syringes in South Africa and in the whole of SADC. And that the market size just for the syringes and needles alone is about 1.1 billion. So that's the only thing they had. So obviously we got our engineers, to get involved in it. And today I'm happy to say that we are now setting up the plant in Kucha with those group of entrepreneurs. So it's very tangible. So you don't just come with some fuzzy ideas. You have to identify that one market opportunity that you would have seen, in your own space. Right. So I'm just giving that as an example. And then there was another question on the shareholding thresholds. On the black equity side, that maybe 51% is a bit small. In fact, the objective is to get to 100%. So, but we're saying 51% because there are those other, industries where you may actually decide that you want to work with the retired white engineers. So we want some of those white engineers who have retired to actually come and upskill some of our black entrepreneurs. So it's 51%, but if you think you can do it alone, 100% is also our first prize.
Will you fund people who failed before?
Peter, what I'm trying to say, so this project I was talking about earlier, we only invested 5 million. So first tranche was 5 million. It increased to 10 million, to 20 million. So whilst we are still developing the concept, obviously there are a lot of capital requirements. So you understand the recapitalization needs of the NEF. So I can't come here and say, we will fund you. You know, I've already spoken about that. But I'm just saying now that we have all of the DFIs that are fully on board with huge balance sheets, I'm sure they would be able to do that.
So you will fund people who failed before?
Yes, we have done it.
Okay,
You know,
that's
we've done it.
Can I just come in on the 50%? Can I come in on the 50%? The actual definition says has a high level of ownership greater than 50% and or exercises control over the business. In the final consultations, what we actually were saying 100%. And then we discovered that there was the possibility that there was a black-led company that entered into some technology arrangement with somebody and that they didn't have 100% share ownership, but they actually led the company. And so we said, are we going to cut them out of the program? And we decided, no, we're not. So that's why the definition is there. If you've got less than 50%, you have to be black-led. You have to be in the management. You have to be actually leading the company. That's what we say. So it is an enabling clause rather than anything else. It's not that we want a lot of what we don't want, and what I think we're going to be very vigilant about, is that if there are passive share deals with established white companies, and somebody comes along and is the PR arm of essentially a white company, but they come and apply to the program, we don't want you. You're not going to qualify for the Black Industrialist program. You have to be a black-led company, as evidenced either by your share ownership or by your leadership. We will allow both.
Mr. Masina, as you pick up your comments, there was a thing about helping to jump the hurdles so that they don't have to go through 10 hurdles to get through to Transnet and procure.
Yes. Look, we have MOUs with Eskom, Transnet, PRASA, AXA, DINEL, AMSCO, CETA, amongst others, as part of the state-owned enterprises that we are going to be engaging to open market opportunities, because we believe that this program is not just about giving out state money, but also it's about ensuring that there is a market opportunity in these, as you heard from the COO of Transnet, that are going to be spending trillions of rands in the build program, as an example. So we want to ensure that our people do find space in that particular opportunity. The other thing that I wanted to speak to is that we shouldn't, the policies like triple PFA is not as bad as sometimes we want to project, because it is there to protect public money. We are doing work around it. For instance, we now have a number of products that are designated. We now have set-asides through that are led by Minister Zulu that are specific. And we think that these are amongst many others, the Minister is saying, amongst many other things that we are going to be doing to tweak and change. We don't want to put it aside altogether. Now, the other issue that I wanted to speak to is that this 51%, we are cognizant of the fact that we need certain skills, we need some of the investments, we need some of the opportunities from elsewhere. But for me, the advice that we can give to all the industrialists and entrepreneurs out there is that don't go look for a 2 billion rand tender when you have not started to grow your business, because you will have lots of challenges. You would want to take us to constitutional court because you've gone to another level. I'm saying that all of us must be able to say we need those opportunities, and we must take advantage of those opportunities. But let's bite what we can chew.
Okay. Jay Carlisle has sent a tweet. What are the qualifying requirements? Where does one send an application? And what's the cycle time for the application? So DTI has come up with a policy of how to move forward in black industrialization. Do they come to you, Ms. Mthethwa, or do they start at the DTI who works with you and then send them through to the right places? How does one become a black industrialist through this scheme?
We actually have established two sets of forums. The one is with the DFIs, the Developmental Financial Institutions, where Ms. Philisiwe, IDC, PIC sits. We work with them. And on the other hand, we have what we call the State-Owned Enterprise Forum, where we're looking at market opportunities. So you put one application at DTI. We have the acting chief director here, Mr. Tagalani. If you can see you, I call him Mr. Black Industrialist. He's really, really black. So in the guidelines here, which everyone is going to receive, there is a form where you apply, and then we take it through the process. So you don't have to move in all these institutions. Okay. So you apply the DTI through the forum that the minister has said that is going to be meeting in March and so on. Then we're able to process your application. And the lead time that we've set for ourselves is 90 days to go through the process. It can be earlier, but we just want to make sure that because we are spending public money, we want to make sure that we are very tight in terms of what we do.
All right.
Can I just say that this document, which is the program guideline, this is the actual policy, and then the Deputy Minister's got the program guideline, is available on the DTI website, together with the contact information, www.thedti.gov.za. It's available there, people can go there, but it's actually an enabling arrangement, because you can approach directly the NEF, the IDC, the Land Bank, or any of the other institutions that I told you. You can still go to them direct, but you can also go through this channel as well.
All right. I'm going to get a question from Minister Lindiwe Zulu just now, but first, there's a young man that I know, table number 3, Siya Kluza, if you could stand up. Stand up, yeah. We'll get a microphone to you. So people are starting to catch up with who you are. This is a woman the man who made Michelle Obama cry. Amazing young man, and for me, the future of this country is in the hands of young people. And so maybe, I know you said that we've got to bite off things that we can chew, but if I look at Facebook, they didn't start small, they just went bang, and they went for it. And this young man, I think, is an example of someone who wants to scale up very quickly. And I just want you to share your journey with us as a young man, how you can become a black industrialist, and lessons that we can learn from your journey so far.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, I stand really as a testament of what the support of DTI can do for young entrepreneurs. 2 years ago, I came back from the US with an engineering degree and a fuel cell technology and just a concept. And today, I'm grateful to have offices, accesses to networks, included in state visits where we were recently in Japan meeting with top fuel cell developers. And I'm truly grateful of that. And it is due to the non-financial support, because the program is beyond just the financial aspect of it. Many entrepreneurs require the soft skills, require all of that, and I'm blessed to have that, because when Africa industrializes, we cannot afford to play catch up. We have to play to take the lead, and young people have to be at the forefront of that.
All right. How's your journey been, though? How far are you away from this? Because I know you've developed the science.
Yes.
How far are you away from actually setting up a plant and starting to manufacture?
Well, that's a work in progress. I will now be submitting applications for the fund, but I had to do with a lot of the core infrastructure, protecting my intellectual property, making sure that my IP is in safe hands in South Africa, so that unlike many other young people, we don't find ourselves exploited, where African technologies are shipped overseas. So I had to do a lot of those legwork, as well as, learning about finance, because there's one thing to be a great engineer, but how do you take engineering and take it with business and become the next Bill Gates and become the next Steve Jobs? Because that's really the aspiration of of all black industrialists here. We want to shift and scale into African markets. We're talking a billion African population. We're talking a region of the world that is urbanizing faster than any other region in the world. But we as Africans have to be at the forefront of that.
All right, so he's mentioned a very important thing about beyond financial support. You know, we can't afford to go to some big shot consultants and get advice. Is this some of the kind of support that you're able to provide?
Well, I mean, let me just first of all say that fuel cells and fuel cell technology is one of our real heavy focus that will unfold in the course of this year. Even next week, I think we'll start making a few announcements. But we will be having actually part of one existing industrial development zone, and a new special economic zone will be proclaimed for the platinum industry with a big focus on fuel cells in the course of this year. Fuel cells we've identified for small power stations, not just in South Africa, remote areas in South Africa, but also in the rest of the continent, and underground mining vehicles powered by fuel cells. And we want the manufacturing to take place. So I think you've got yourself into a frontier industry for this country. There is an opportunity. We do offer non-financial support. We work with people. I'm sure we have been trying to work with you as the DTI to open doors. You went to Japan, which is the technology leader, and build a partnership and all that kind of stuff. Let me just say that actually, you know, in Davos a few weeks ago, we were all discussing something called the fourth industrial revolution. And what has been the essential point there is that they say there are about 22 technologies, which are all high-tech technologies that are going to have major disruptive effects in the course of the 2020s, not just on products and manufacturing processes, but across services, things like accounting, things like lawyers, even tax collection will change dramatically. And it's very, very important that our industrialists prepare themselves for these frontier industries as well. This is going to be the future. We have people in South Africa, we have young black people who are working in motor companies and whatever, are at the head of robotic technologies, ICT-driven processes. We can do it. We need to lead in those kind of industries as well. So I think that we want to welcome the young man. I've heard of him before and his ventures, and how Michelle Obama embraced him. And I'm glad that he's here in home in South Africa and taking us into a frontier industry in South Africa, and not just, he could have gone and lived in America or something, I'm sure, but he's here, and I want to welcome the fact that he's here. Thank you.
Fantastic. All right, let's get 3 questions. Starting at table number 6, we have the Honourable Minister, Lindiwe Zulu.
Thank you very much. Is less of a question from myself, but a question that has come through, your social media from one of the small businesses. But before I get to that, excuse me, I wanted to say that when you hear young people, and there was a young woman that spoke at the back there, and you see young people, clearly the future is in their hands. And we must really accept that, and as the older generation, open up to that, open up to the ideas and everything that they have to tell us, because today it's technology. Now, Minister Davies spoke about the fourth revolution that was spoken about at Davos. I followed this up. I wasn't at Davos, but of course, you have to read what comes out of that. And I was actually excited about the top 10 skills that they spoke about. And I think that we need to wake up to the reality of those top 10 skills. And you won't believe, I thought when they talk about 10 top skills, they're all talking about only technology. They say the top 10 is complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, people's management. And that's very critical. Coordination with others, emotional intelligence, judgment and decision making, service orientation, negotiations, and cognitive flexibility. Now, if we are going to refuse to step into that next level, we're not going to be able to have those black industrialists that we are talking about. And I think as a government, right now we are having the likhutla of government. Collectively, we take collective responsibility. And that's why I want to say to the gentleman there that had very strong words, we would like to get the information from him so that we can then be able to take the issue to the Minister of Communication, because we don't know what the issue is, but we can take that. The question that I have here, which comes from Lele to Jordan, is the most important is funding. What will be the approach on getting pure ideas off the ground and see them to fruition? Thank you.
Okay, all right. Table 13, Loyiso Mangena.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning, everybody. I think my name is Loyiso Mangena, COO at Pamudzi Group. Firstly, I wish to commend the government. I think everybody in the room will agree that this initiative is a step in the right direction. So, yeah, I'd like to commend the government. My question or comment, I think, is related to what Mr. Zungu touched on and Mr. Mofokeng, and I think the Deputy Minister alluded to, is access to markets, where state-owned enterprises sometimes continue to procure from overseas manufacturers and import, where there's local capacity with experience at competitive pricing. Because as it has been said in the room, it's not only about the funding, but the access to markets is quite key. And I believe that government will play a strategic and important role in making sure that that whole value chain is met. Because without that, I think this great initiative will be another white elephant. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. And then Mzwandile Mani, table number 4. Why is there a murmur in the room all of a
sudden? This is because Jimmy has fallen. Minister, thank you very much. I think firstly, for us as Progressive Professionals Forum, we really welcome this program, and also as BBC, we really welcome this program. But indeed, I think we need to see the whole thing in totality. We have a constitution, Section 217, that talks to procurement. It's got 3 sections. The first section talks to efficiencies. The second section talks to empowerment. The third section is a directive that there must be a national framework to effect the empowerment. Now, the response to that has been PPPFA. Now, PPPFA, in terms of the constitution, is meant to do one thing and one thing only, to effect the empowerment. But National Treasury has misunderstood this. They have constructed PPPFA to respond to Section 1, which talks to efficiencies, as it were. And how it has done that, it allocates 90% of the points to the lower price. Now, SOEs have got a serious problem becoming a market for black business because of PPPFA. Now, we have all of this, and when you go to the market, which is a sympathetic market, for lack of a better word, but they try to do this, but they can't because of PPPFA. Black business gets outbidded by white business, as it were. Now, we put that aside. National Treasury, yes, we know that they're working on this thing. Our problem is that National Treasury is not working on the law itself. They're busy with regulations. Now, regulations are not going to be able to amend the law. We've been raising this, but to deaf ears. But to put that aside, we now have a trumping clause within broad-based BEE. The question is, will the trumping clause take us out of our misery and just trump PPPFA? We have a procurement provision within broad-based BEE which can solve all these problems. Why aren't we fine-tuning that and just trump PPPFA?
Okay, fantastic. Great questions. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time, so you've probably all got about 40 seconds each to embrace some of these ideas and then just sort of conclude. And let's start with you, Minister.
Well, I think that my colleague Lindiwe Zulu was absolutely right about the qualities that you need to be a manufacturer, and that the journey is one of moving to take some idea and take it off the ground to fruition. And there's a number of examples of that one can cite. That's the journey that it's on. It's not an easy journey. That's what it is to be a manufacturer. What I wanted to say on the question of the triple PFA is that as Jimmy has fallen told us, as he told us, the Treasury is addressing the matter. And we hear him. We've heard what he said. I think I can't make any further comment until there's a response and an answer. But I do think that I think, as Deputy Minister said earlier on, that we do have to have a set of rules about procurement which do cut out a lot of rent seeking and abuse of the tender system. That has to be balanced with seeking real opportunities to support and encourage businesses and black businesses. That piece of work is still under construction.
Okay. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but what we will do is, as soon as we come off air, I'm going to give you an opportunity to address these questions so that they get them answered. And I'll tweet the answers so that you don't feel left out at home. But unfortunately, we've run out of time, so I'm going to have to leave it here in Pretoria. Thank you very much for joining us for this conversation. Our next one will be with the President, State of the Nation address. Join us for that next week. But in the meantime, have a great day, everybody. And back to Leanne in Johannesburg.
Thank you so much, Peter. Thanks so much to all of the guests as well that have participated during this particular SABC TNA business briefing. And I think it's been a successful one. Lots of people wanting questions to be answered. So as you heard, Peter will ensure that some of you do get your answers.